I would just have to imagine you've got some pretty interesting stories and encounters that have happened over the years.
I'm doing a job right now at a hoarder's house. We've caught over 600 mice since September.
600 mice in one house.
One house, one townhouse.
It usually doesn't happen until after hours, and you'll get either a raccoon or a squirrel that'll come down the chimney, and it can get 2 or 3 people are running around with nets, and it loves the drapes, it seems.
What would you suggest is the first thing that a manager or a board member should know with regard to pest management in a particular community?
Most people are not equipped to understand the seemingly endless facets of an HOA. That's why we're here, to help you become uncommonly prepared to serve your HOA. Whether you're a board member or a manager, join us in the Uncommon area.
Welcome to the Uncommon Area. I'm Matthew Holbrook, and this episode is all about pest management. And here to discuss that with me, we have 2 people from Animal Pest Management, Rick Duffy and Justin Fox, and appreciate both of you being here. And I understand that Animal Pest Management Services has been around for over 40 years. So you guys know something about this.
Well, Mr. Fox does, Dan. Yeah. He's the creator of Animal Pest Management. It's been a little over 40 years. His son, Justin, is moving up in the ranks, so someday he'll be my boss, actually. But for now, yes, we've been around. We know a little bit about animal pest management and what to do out in the field.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. And I guess we can start off with, this podcast is directed towards board members and managers. And so if somebody is new to their board of directors in a community, or a manager is taking over managing a community and they're new to that community, what would you suggest is the first thing that a manager or a board member should know with regard to pest management in a particular community?
Well, what we like to see at Animal Pest Management is that we come in contact with the either board member or the property manager. We get a chance to maybe go over the property with them, give them what our expectations are, listen to what their expectations are on how to manage the property the correct way. It's not always what was being done in the past, because different boards have different objectives, but again, the property manager can only do what the board asks them to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that just depends on whether or not, if they have enough bait stations there. I mean, it could be they don't have ground squirrels on the contract, and we would recommend doing ground squirrels if there's a lot of activity. But it really just depends on what the board's looking for, on what they're actually trying to achieve.
So you could have a scenario, for example, where you guys might make a recommendation to have bait stations for ground squirrels, and maybe a previous board makes a decision from a budget standpoint to say, no, we're not going to do that. New board comes in and says, hey, why aren't you taking care of the ground squirrels? And so I think it'd be a good idea for new board members, for managers, just understand what's kind of been the history, what's been the discussion, and certainly by having a conversation with whatever vendor is responsible for that, you can be brought up to speed pretty quickly.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. That's probably the biggest thing.
So what's interesting to me about your business and what you guys do, you're dealing with animals and pests all the time. I would just have to imagine you've got some pretty interesting stories and encounters that have happened over the years. Anything come to mind that's like of particular interest that maybe you've encountered with regard to homeowners and animals?
Probably more or less rats in the walls, or rats inside a house, or other animals, raccoons or squirrels. It's a long list. I mean, every week it's something different that happens. It's just out there in the field, there's a lot of different things that'll happen in the middle of your living room when a squirrel comes down the fireplace and now he's in the middle of your house, or a rat in the wall that everybody thinks that, oh, we can call a pest control guy and he can find it immediately. Between installation and drywall, it's very hard to narrow the smell down. You could be smelling it very heavy in one corner of the room, and the rat could be in the other corner. It's just the way the ventilation comes through the walls that it pushes the odor to the other side.
I mean, yeah, I'm doing a job right now at a hoarder's house. We've caught over 600 mice since September.
600 mice in one house.
One house, one townhouse.
Wow.
We're still doing it. It's been a process. We're over 653 actually as of yesterday.
Do you charge per mouse?
No, I should have though. We should have been a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Did either of you happen to see, there was not too long ago, and I don't remember the details right now, but there was a homeowner, and this ended up on one of the late night television shows where like a squirrel came down into his office, and he kind of like had this whole war with the squirrel, and it was all on video.
Yeah.
I bet you guys have probably had some encounters similar to that.
We've had a couple nights like that, to be honest with you. It usually doesn't happen until after hours, and you'll get either a raccoon or a squirrel that'll come down a chimney, and it can get 2 or 3 people are running around with nets, and it loves the drapes, it seems.
Yeah.
Once they feel like they're boxed in, they're going to go wild, especially squirrels.
Yeah.
We've had every single curtain ripped down from buildings. I mean, they go everywhere.
Wow. What about bats? Do you guys ever deal with bats? I've been in situations where a bat has come into a living room, and you're chasing it with the broom and whatever, trying to shoo it out the door. Yeah,
we do a lot of exclusion work for bats. That's about basically all you can do within California, but we get like 3 or 4 calls a year for bats.
What's exclusion work?
Exclusion work is if there's an access point where they're coming from the outside into a building, you don't want to exclude that by either using like hardware cloth or some other type of material. Sometimes you use a one-way door in order to have them come out, but they can't enter the building back again.
So at least in California, there's laws that would prevent you from taking any other action directly with the bat?
Well, you're not allowed to handle bats or anything like that. You're not allowed to manage them or discard a bat. So if you do harm it, then
you can only deter.
Yeah,
that's all you can do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are there any other prominent types of pests or animals that would apply to?
Mountain lions. That would be it.
Yeah,
that would be it.
I think you would want to deter the mountain lions.
Yeah. Pretty much bears all the way down to termites, except for bats. There is some waterfowl that you have to get permission from the state for, get depredation permits, things like that would go through Fish and Wildlife. But everything else is manageable.
All right, let's do a little vocabulary here. You've used the word depredation. What does that mean?
Depredation, we say it like this at board meetings. We wave our magic wand, and we have the animals disappear.
Depredation basically means any problem animal that's causing havoc to a house or property that the homeowner owns or an association owns. You can not discard, but make it disappear.
Depredate.
All right.
We manage that
We
animal.
manage the animal.
All right. So it sounds like mice and rats are probably a big part of your business and a big part of what you encounter. What are some of the things that somebody should maybe have in mind when it comes to dealing with a mouse problem or rat problem?
It's mainly when you're taking on association, it's being able to go out and put enough rat bait stations in the areas that need to be there. And then seeing the actual fruit trees and seeing the bird feeders that are being put up by the homeowners, because they're going to definitely go for the fruit trees or the bird feeders before they go for anybody's bait. So it's just being able to get the expectations underhand. And the ground foliage. I mean, if people aren't doing good ground foliage and cutting stuff back and keeping it away from the house, then you're creating a nightmare.
So addressing the issues with rats and mice starts with actually outside of a home or a unit before you ever dealing with anything inside.
That's where you want them. You want to keep them outside the home, and you want to take care of them outside the home. But it's a little bit of housekeeping to do that. Yeah. And we work close at hand with the landscapers and people in the common area to be able to do that, because most of our work in the HOAs is all in the common area. It's not actually for the homeowner, it's for the areas that the rats and mice are in.
Right.
I mean, rodents only need 3 things to live. They need food, water, and shelter. So if you eliminate that from your backyard, if you're a particular homeowner, you're going to eliminate a lot of your problems. So really thick, heavy ground cover, that's going to help eliminate them wanting to stay there. If you have bird feeders or bird waterers, then you're going to want to get rid of that, because that's just going to attract those rodents to your backyard.
Okay. And then Do you address the rats or mice themselves outside of a unit? In other words, do you poison or trap them outside of a unit in any way, or is that only going to be addressed inside of a unit?
We trap inside, and we actually put bait stations on the outside to feed them.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want a dead rat in the walls.
In the wall.
That's
Yeah.
why you want
Yeah.
bait stations on the outside, traps on the inside.
Trap on the inside.
So if you do put traps inside, then how often should you be checking those traps?
At least every 2 days.
2 days. Yeah.
Just for the smell.
Right.
So
we do a 10-day trapping basically every 2 days, and it's really, we have to work closely with the homeowners because we have to set up appointment times to be able to get in and out.
And then you do bait stations outside where you're hoping that by the time that they manage themselves out of existence, that they are in underground or someplace
Yes.
where they're not going to create a problem.
That's usually what happens. If they eat the bait on the outside, they're going to stay on the outside and just pass away on the outside.
Okay.
They will.
And then we can talk about other types of pest control. I know a big one often that comes up is rabbits. Is that one that you guys hear about frequently?
Well, yes, and we do a lot of rabbit depredation control. We do it from 12:30 at night to 6 in the morning. That's mine, Justin's, and Mr. Fox's job.
Yeah.
It's only 3 of us that do it in the company, and the rest of our technicians do all the trapping and basic work of rats, mice, ground squirrels, gophers, things like that.
Yeah, and the challenge with the rabbits is they actually do damage to the common area.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of your landscape every week gets just eaten anywhere you are in the country. There are a 16-inch area a rabbit will go to day in and day out and just eat it all the way to the dirt. And their urine causes it yellow. So your beautiful green grass turns yellow and it's nothing but dirt. Then you need rabbit control.
Yeah, that's a particular challenge. Justin, have you had any experiences with like a homeowner or a resident who was unhappy with you guys addressing the rabbits because they wanted to protect the rabbits?
I haven't had any problems with it, no.
Oh, that's good.
We're pretty good at night between the hours of 12:30 and 6 a.m. in the morning. You very rarely even have a homeowner that you come in contact with.
Yeah.
And we have the great satisfaction of not doing our job if it's not under control. Meaning if we see other people, if somebody's walking by, somebody's sitting in their house right there and the rabbit's in their front yard, we just drive
You're not
on.
going to be waving that magic wand at that point.
Exactly.
No.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And you'd be surprised how many people that are, let's say, very green and they're very soft-hearted at nature, but once it's their own property and they're damaging their property and they're having to spend their own money to take care of it, they're pretty friendly about, please come out and take care of our issue.
Yeah.
That can be said for coyotes, especially.
Especially for coyotes.
So I am not, just for background, I managed homeowners associations for probably about a dozen years, and I don't know that I ever dealt with any type of coyote management in that capacity. So what does that look like?
Mainly traps. We use a certain type of trap to be able to cage the animal in and remove them from the property. I mean, there's a lot of different. We actually sent over 200 coyotes to get necropsied to see what was on the inside of their stomachs, and we actually found out that 33% of all the coyotes that we sent in had cat remains in them.
Really?
Yes.
So that's
mean-
who's taking out the cats.
They love
Exactly.
cats.
Those posters you see on those on the telephone poles or the light posts saying, "Hey, my cat's missing. Please return them if you see him." It's probably not coming back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
For those homeowners.
And small dogs. And, coyotes have been, we're basically built right in their area, and there's easier for them to come down in our neighborhoods and eat our cats and dogs or eat the dog food or drink the water off somebody's backyard. So they really, if a homeowner really needs to keep their actual dog food and water picked up because it helps eliminate that problem.
So they travel in packs normally, don't they?
Not
no,
necessarily.
they do a lot of hunting on their own.
Yes.
They don't have to hunt in a pack like a pack of wolves would if they're trying to take down an elk or something large. But for coyotes, no, they can they can go all by themselves and be just fine.
So you could have a problem from just one animal, catch that animal, and then resolve your issue?
Very much so.
Yeah.
We find that more than, people all call you and they say, oh, we saw 7 coyotes throughout a neighborhood. Well, they usually see 1 to 2 coyotes. They're just seeing the same coyote multiple times on multiple streets. A coyote will actually travel up to a couple miles a night if it's looking for food. Or it could just stay in a 100-yard area because it's got great food. Yeah. So they're very, they'll walk an 8-foot wall like it's nothing or jump over it. So they can do a lot of damage and be in a lot of different places at one time.
Yeah, interesting. So talk to me about ants going the other direction as far as size. I would imagine ants are a big problem for a lot of HOAs. What do we need to know about that?
Well, what we need to know is that when we are actually doing mulching, we need to look at the mulch that we get, because we're taking an HOA that's under control, that we've sat there and done a lot of spraying on and actually have control. And once a year, we want it to be even more beautiful. So we call in and have the landscapers put all new mulch through it. We never tell the pest control company that we're doing this. And then it turns around, we're bringing ants, we're bringing subterranean termites and all these other things from the mulch yard 20 miles away, and it's being spread through our community. Now we got a huge infestation of ants.
Cockroaches as well.
And cockroaches and all that. And then so the one-times or calls to the property managers just increases tenfold. So a lot of times if we just know things are happening before they happen, then as a pest control company, you can go out and jump on that. Instead of, if you're doing an ant spray and you're only doing the common area around a community and you're doing it 1 time a month. So if they put new mulch in on the 1st or 2nd of the month, all of a sudden the phone calls start increasing. But the pest control company's only out there on the 5th Thursday or 4th Thursday of that month. And so for 2 weeks, you've got 30 different homeowners that are calling about the ants. If we would have known, we could switch that time that we actually go out and put some granulars down and really get a good kill before they actually start to infestate.
And one really big misconception is if there's ants on the inside of a house, we'll just have them spray on the outside. That's a big misconception. That's not always going to happen. Sometimes there's cracks in the foundation to where those ants are just coming up from the cracks in the foundation going right into the house. So if you're having ants on the inside of your house, you need to have the interior of your house sprayed, because that's where you're going to get the most effective spray to what you want, which is no ants in the house. So just doing an outside spray, that's not going to solve your problem every single time.
Same thing with cockroaches, because cockroaches will come up through the drains, come up through your toilets.
Absolutely.
All that. If the city or the town is back flushing the sewer system, cockroaches just come right up through those drains and stuff and into people's houses that were never there before.
So what I'm hearing in the course of this conversation, a really practical suggestion for managers and for board members. Not something I ever did, by the way, so this is probably worth considering. But I know that most of the time managers are meeting on site doing a landscape walk with their landscape committee and their landscaper probably every month. It seems to me that there's a lot of coordination that should be happening between the landscape company and the pest control company, and inviting the pest control company to at least periodically attend those walks and have the landscape committee, the manager, the landscaper, pest control walking together at least a few times a year. That seems like that would be a really important thing to do just from a coordination standpoint.
Absolutely. We like to do it quarterly.
Okay, we actually like to visit the association as one of us managers for those meetings, for the walks, and the technician.
With the landscaper?
Yeah, with the landscaper. Because there's certain things that a landscaper, you pull you aside and you can kind of communicate.
Yeah.
And they give you, hey, we're having an issue on this slope, we're having an issue back here that maybe your technician never knew about. That really helps us out a lot. So coordination and communication is the number one thing.
Or if they want to plant new material, hey, don't be planting that certain plant,
Yeah.
I mean, rose bushes, then the rabbit's going to come in here, or rats and mice. I mean, how about you put some acacia in that spot? It's pretty hardy.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to
It's
want to eat
hardy and
that.
they don't like to eat it as much, you know. And that's kind of a big thing. Or if you got a crow issue, and you're going to resod the whole, one area, and next thing you know, the crows are just, eating the grubs, and they're out there left and right. we do a lot of crow work too.
Yeah. So I don't know where this exactly comes from, but I hear frequently that Bougainvillea is like the place for rats to hide. Is that a true
You will
statement?
not find one of those in my house.
Really?
I can tell you that.
And it's for that reason.
And my wife loves them. It's just a rat highway.
Yeah.
It's really a
Interesting.
rat highway.
Yep.
I love it.
So that's we can put that in the fact category as opposed to the myth category.
In any ivy crawling up the side of a house. I mean, if somebody really wants to deter something, you're just given a highway for them to climb up and to live in.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an 8-foot wall, you got ivy growing up the side of it. That's an easy way for them to get up and over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just to live in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about bees. What should managers, board members, or anybody know about pest control as it relates to bees?
Well, bees are not illegal to take care of. That's one of the big things. We fight that battle every day.
Oh, somebody says that it's illegal to address bees?
We've
hear
heard a lot of things.
every day.
Where does that come from?
Or honeybees, just the activists that, the honeybees being taken over.
That they're
and
protected in some
Yeah,
way?
they're protected. And it's not true. There's more honeybees now than there ever has been, especially in the communities where this, lush vegetation's growing and water 24/7 year round.
So this is a little surprising to me. It sounds to me like out of all the pest control you do, you get the most pushback on bees. Is that
Yeah, our technicians
Yes.
get stopped the most for
Most
bee
on
control.
bees.
really? I would not have guessed that.
Oh, yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
interesting.
And everybody's allergic to it. Do you know that there's
every
only 2% of the whole country that's actually allergic to bees? But everybody's allergic to bees when they see bees.
Well, sure, and I would think actually there is the people who are it's deadly. I would say that out of all the pest controls, other than maybe mountain lions, the bees might actually be the most deadly.
They definitely could be,
They
especially if
can
it's
be, especially
Africanized. Yeah.
Yeah, but even somebody who does have a true allergy,
Yes.
that could really be serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Africanized bees, there's a honeybee which is going to, go up in a tree and make a hive or go inside a wall in a house, stuff like that. And then you got the Africanized bees that are going to be underground. They're actually going to be the ones in your valve box, things like that.
Yeah, a European honeybee will not go underground. So anything in a valve box is 100% Africanized.
Yes.
And translate that. Why do I care if it's Africanized?
Well, those are the
They're
more
mean.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones that are going to chase you for a long.
Yeah.
Long
If you
ways
walk
away.
past and disturb them, they're coming at you. And
Is it just a matter of you're more likely to be stung, or is it actually
you're
more
gonna be
dangerous? Is it
stung.
more dangerous to be stung by one of those?
Yes, it is, because they come in mass and they bite you. They'll sting you. You can actually go to a honeybee hive. I wouldn't recommend this, but you get stung very little with natural honeybees with no bee suit on, just taking the hive out. They're not aggressive at all.
Yeah.
But an Africanized, very aggressive.
It's not so much the European honeybee compared to the Africanized bee has more sting than the other. It's the amount of bees that come after you.
Yeah.
After that first bee sting, the pheromone they release, the whole colony will come out and just attack you.
Yeah.
So, do all bees die when they sting you?
Yes.
Yes. But
So you're not going to be stung multiple times by one bee?
no, not by the same bee.
But you could have 100,000 bees in one colony.
What you see flying around is not a quarter of what's in the hive.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just depends on the colony as
Yeah.
well. I mean, we've taken out honeycomb over 100 pounds before out of a building.
So what? I'm just curious. What's the motivation for a bee to sting somebody if it's going to die?
If it's gonna it's protecting the
Protection.
Yeah, the hive.
It's just
So
any
it's just
animal
a suicide
has
mission to protect the rest of
That's
the
its
colony.
only job.
Yeah. It's flight or fight, and a bees fight. That's what they do.
If
They
you get
don't
too
fly.
close, they're going to attack to protect the queen and the colony.
I was just going to ask, what is the definition of a queen, and how does that fit into this whole equation?
I mean, really, the queen is the king. I mean, they're the boss.
queen is the king.
Everybody works for the queen, from the worker bees all the way up through the soldiers. Everybody works for the
But I was just
queen.
wondering if, from a pest control standpoint, if you get the queen bee, does that help?
Yes.
Yes, it does. The hive will disperse because they're trying to find the queen. They protect the queen. When you see a ball, you'll see bees. You'll see a bee swarm going down the freeway or coming down the street. they're actually moving with the queen. They're going to stop on a tree, they're going to surround the queen, and they're going to make a big ball. Now, most likely, they're going to move on within an hour or two. But everybody, there's a hive being created. Not necessarily. They're just transporting to another safer place because they'll move the queen periodically to make a new hive.
Yeah, I got a picture. We removed a hive up in a tree one time, and the queen landed on my helmet of my bee suit. And I have about, I don't know, probably 400 bees on top of my helmet.
Wow.
Yeah, wherever the queen goes, the rest of the colony is going to follow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they just ball up around her.
Yeah.
To protect her. And she's a lot bigger, so you can tell definitely it's a queen versus a regular.
The only way you can tell a honeybee from an Africanized bee is under a microscope, too.
Yeah.
So,
Or where you find it.
well, you can tell by when you approach a hive whether or not
They're
how aggressive
aggressive.
they're going to be. But the only way to actually tell the difference is under a microscope.
Is it more dangerous to be stung by a queen bee?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of either. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, last thing, we started this episode talking about squirrels coming down the chimney. What's the strategy with addressing pest control with regard to squirrels?
So ground squirrels can actually burrow up to 30 feet in the ground into slope areas. So what you want to do is once you find the start of a burrow system or the colony moving in, you want to get on it as quickly as possible, especially before the spring. That's when they have their litter, and then it's going to go about tenfold the whole population.
So spring, squirrels multiply tenfold. That's a good rule to know.
Yep.
So address them in the winter or early spring, but get that addressed quickly. And what is the strategy?
Bait stations was what we use to take care of them. They come in, they eat the bait, and then within a few days, they're gone. So that's the best way to get rid of them. Sometimes you can use, I know back in the day, you used to be able to use gas cartridges and then plug up the burrow systems that way. I'm sure you can still do that in like the Midwestern states as well.
Well, if it ever comes to it, I could fall back on pest management with squirrels. My experience is when I was a kid, I would set up, when we'd go camping, I'd set up a box with a stick and a little string, and I caught a lot of squirrels doing that, just pulling the stick out, and the box would fall on the squirrel. So
Yeah.
that's my experience, but that actually works.
Yeah. Or you can do trapping as well if you have to.
Yeah.
But that's really labor intensive.
Yeah.
So
But to keep them out of your chimney, just put a good exclusion.
your chimney.
Exclusion on your chimney.
Yeah.
And keep your flue closed when you're not having it lit.
Yeah. Well, is there anything significant that we have not talked about with regard to pest control that a manager or a board member really should know?
gophers.
Gophers. We didn't hit on gophers.
Gophers. So gophers are really temperature sensitive. So during the winter months, they actually will tunnel closer to the surface of the ground. So they'll actually make up to 3 mounds per day, as opposed to the summertime in the heat, they'll actually burrow down lower. So they'll only make 1 mound almost every 3 days. It's the same amount of gophers, but during the wintertime, you're going to see a lot more mounds pop up. So it looks like there's a lot more activity than there actually is. So when that happens, this is out of control. No, it's not really out of control. It's just they're seeing a lot more mounds because they're closer to the surface of the ground.
And you're dealing with bait stations there to address the gophers?
No, you actually put all of the bait underground for gophers.
Okay.
You find the tunnel systems, and then you apply bait on the inside of them.
And that's generally very effective?
Very effective,
Yeah.
yes. If it's done correctly, it's very effective.
There's bait, and then there's also gas that you can put under the ground, and it fills up the entire tunnel system, takes care of them that way. A lot of people use traps. You can buy traps at Home Depot. If you like to dig a lot, you can use traps all you want. So it's kind of up to you.
It's just really hard with trapping in a common area because then your liability of a kid stepping on a trap. It doesn't hurt them, but they trip over it, sprain their ankle, the liability wise. Yeah. So it's much more effective to actually treat underground. It's safer for animals, things like that.
Can you permanently address gophers in that way? Like if you put the poison or the gas down and they you kill them all off.
Their migration. They'll
come back again.
It's just like coyotes, just like rabbits. There's just no way to eliminate. We wouldn't be in business either.
Yeah.
I mean, migration hurts us all. I mean, it does, but that's why we're in pest control.
Yeah.
We're there to keep the migration down as low as possible and keep them managed.
Yeah. Especially if you think about when when it dries up during the summertime, all the HOAs have watered grass year round, so they're going to flock to those communities, especially if you're on the outside of a native area
Big
where
slope.
there's big slope or fuel mod areas. They're going to swarm to those communities where they have water and green grass to eat.
Yeah.
So
That's super helpful.
That's what they're looking for.
yep.
Well, Rick, Justin, thank you so much. This was really informative and very interesting and helpful. So appreciate your input and insight. And I hope that was helpful to everyone who was watching. And I would encourage you to look for other episodes of The Uncommon Area.